My name is Laura Tyree, and I am from Fort Walton Beach, Florida. How I came to yoga and how yoga found me. Pretty active as a kid, pretty active as in high school, and I got to college. I moved in with my brother and all of his roommates, and they were all either runners, competitive swimmers, or triathletes. And my brother was a cyclist. Well, I wasn't going to be the only one in the household not doing something, so I decided to become a triathlete as well. And it was wonderful, and I loved it. And I was not the most intelligent athlete. One day I was trying to figure out my clipless pedals on my bike. I couldn't. And of course my bike locked up. I'm on a hill waiting at a traffic light in town, and my bike fell over and slid down an embankment. I twisted, tried to catch myself, and I hurt myself. But that was okay because I was a triathlete. So I got back on my bicycle and rode for however long I rode, and couldn't finish the ride because I was hurting. And as time went on, waitressing, carrying my book bag, continuing to try to train, things had to start to drop off. First, running dropped off. I thought, well, I'll swim and do the bike. And then swimming dropped off. And then all I had left was biking. And then biking dropped off. And then I was miserable. I couldn't move. I couldn't sleep. I noticed that I was mean all the time, and that I was kind of becoming somebody that I really wasn't supposed to be. So a friend of mine suggested that I go to her mom's yoga class. Her mom had just opened a yoga studio. So, okay, I'll try anything. So I went to Jan Campbell's yoga studio at the Yoga Center of Nashville. This was 1986. And I walked in to take a yoga class, and it was terrible. It was so bad. So I'm in there, I'm in so much pain, and she's an amazing teacher. And I'm in there with all these old women, right? They're probably in their 30s. And they can do all this stuff, and I'm so competitive and so driven still in my mind. I've got to do the best. I couldn't do anything, and everything hurt. And in the middle of class, I ended up just breaking down and just bawling and just snot and just sobbing on my mat, and so embarrassing. And poor Jan. Sorry, Jan. So anyway, I went home and I slept. I slept for 4 straight hours. 4 hours. I felt like Superwoman when I woke up because I hadn't been able to be still and sleep. So guess what I did? The next day, I'm back at the yoga studio, and I'm ready to take another class. Years later, Jan told me that when she saw me that second day, she was like, oh God, oh no, she's back. But the long story short, I spent 10 years studying with Jan in the Iyengar Yoga Method, and it changed my life. The discipline, her discipline, she had an amazing heart of a lioness. She was just incredible. Still is to this day. Still can't keep up with her. And that really began the launch of my practice. So when people come in and they come in lame, either lame in their heart or lame in their body, I totally get it. I just totally get it. I'm just like, come on, it'll be okay. It might take a little while. You're going to be all right. At the time that I had met Jan and I was working with the yoga and learning to repair my body, going through certain episodes where, I would decide, I'm all better now. I don't need yoga anymore. And 2 weeks later, hobbling back in. I was a singer in the music business and a songwriter. And what I was noticing was the quality of that career was changing so rapidly because of my ability to do the yoga. The yoga was honing my mind. It was settling me down in a really beautiful way. So I just kept going to yoga class. And I remember the day that Jan asked me to substitute teach for her. And it's this simultaneous feeling of there's a thrill that rises and there's a simultaneous dread that descends. And I felt both of those at the same time. I was like, yay, what am I going to do? But I did. I subbed class for her, and it felt amazing, and I loved it. And I continued to do that for a few years. At a certain point, I had friends that weren't able to come into yoga class that lived a little bit further away, and they invited me to teach a class just for them. Now, this would be the first class I ever taught where I wasn't, at my teacher's studio, I wasn't doing the class that my teacher would teach. It was just me getting together with friends and teaching. And it was amazing. I didn't know. Like I hadn't experienced that before. And I came home and I was like, I know what I'm going to do with my life. I got it. I know what I'm going to do. This is amazing. I'm going to be a yoga teacher, and I'm going to be a yoga teacher for the rest of my life. And that was that. And I started teaching more and more outside of my practice studio with Jan. Eventually, I opened a studio with 2 other beautiful yoginis and learned about business, learned about being a yogi in business. And I just kept going from there. I had the studio, Yoga Source, in Nashville. It was the 3rd studio in Nashville. Betty Larson had her studio, Jan had her studio, and then we opened Yoga Source. And it was a phenomenal experience. I loved it. Loved working with those women, all of my students that I met, I still keep up with today. So the last thing that I would say that I didn't hear enough growing up in yoga is to enjoy your life. Your yoga practice should help your life. It should help your life. It should help your life. You should enjoy it. You should move towards it as a way that it is like making everything around you expand. And I've done it the other way, where my yoga practice was about being successful, getting to the next posture, doing it right. And the critique and the critical demons in that, you know, they really held a lot of things down in me for so long. And it wasn't until I really recognized that, and it was really pointed out to me by good friends and good teachers, that I started to nourish myself with joy. Sort of saying, you know, it's really okay if I don't do that practice today. It's really okay if I just like lay down on my yoga mat and be with myself and be with my breath and maybe open my hips today. I moved in initially into the practice to heal my body. And I healed my body, and then I wanted to like dictate over my body what I thought it should be able to do. And there's some things that my body can't do because of my injuries and the things that have happened to me. And there was a lot of like train wrecks for a long time and a lot of personal injury because I was just like, I know I can, if I just keep trying harder and keep trying harder, what's the matter with me? Why can't I get to that pose? Why can't I do that? What's wrong? It took a while to unwind that for me. I don't know if you have that, but once I started to, it became about falling in love. You know, first I had to fall in love with the practice. And that taught me to fall in love with myself. And that taught me to recognize when I wasn't being lovely to myself. And once I got used to that, and it took some getting used to, but once I got used to that, I realized that not only was my yoga practice my friend, but that I was my friend. And what if I became my best friend? Become your best friend. Become your best friend.